Hi, my name's Brad Phillips. I'm here with Puppy Steps Training. Today we're going to be doing a training demonstration for you. So we're going to walk you through the program. We're going to show you everything that your puppy has learned. We're also going to teach you how to continue with the training. Now, before we get to the more demonstrating part of the program, we're first going to talk about some really important information that's going to help you have a lifetime of success with your puppy. So, your puppy is doing fantastic. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sending him home. Like I've told you before, I train to a standard, not a strict time frame. So, your puppy has reached our standard. We have very high expectations, and it's going to be important for you that as you bring them home, that you have the same expectations. Dogs are really, really neat, that they will live up to our expectations, whether we set them high or whether we set them low. And if one person in the family sets them low and everybody else is high, they're going to continue to try and test waters and see what they can get away with. So we want to make sure that the whole family is on the same page. And that's also why these demonstrations are so important, so that we can set the bar before our puppy ever enters into our home. Now, it's important to remember, your puppy is a puppy. And so they're going to have energy and they're going to make mistakes. Just because they went through our training program does not make them a perfect dog. I always like to joke with people, if you were expecting perfection, you might want to run over to Walmart and grab you a stuffed animal. And even there, you're probably going to find a flaw. So it's important to understand that our puppy is going to make mistakes. But it's also important to understand how to deal with those mistakes as they arise. Because failure or making mistakes is a very important part of learning. And so we have what we call our 3 keys to success. Now these are how we try and keep mistakes at a minimum and make sure they don't become bad habits. They're also how we continue with the training and make sure that we have success in our home. So those 3 keys are consistency, follow through, and management. You have to have all 3. These 3 things teach our puppy that we are the leader, that we're going to take care of them, that they don't have to worry, and that their needs are going to be met. Now, so we're going to start with consistency. We've taught them a certain way, and so it's important to try and be consistent along the same lines. Now, if you say things a little bit differently, as long as you're consistent with that, your puppy will understand, but it may take them a few days. And that's why we talk about the transition period. And so for the next 2 to 4 weeks, your puppy is going to be transitioning. During this transition period, they're trying to learn what the expectations are. They're trying to learn the way that you give commands. They're going to learn what they're allowed to get away with and what they're not. And especially over the next 3 days, your puppy is going to be confused. And so they're going to probably test more boundaries, just trying to see whether that consistency, that follow through, that management, they're going to try and see whether those are there. Now, also during this transition period, they're going to be undergoing a period of stress. They're leaving a familiar environment, now being thrown into an unfamiliar environment. So they may lose their appetite. They may get what we call the puppy blues, where they're not as active as they usually are. Maybe they seem a little bit sad. They also may act out once again and see what they can get away with. So it's important that we are patient with them. I want to try and really focus on building a relationship with my puppy during these first 3 days versus trying to build these commands up back to where we have them right now. Because with the stress, there's also going to be just a little bit of regression. Now, regression doesn't mean that they're going to pee in the house or that they're not going to do commands for you. It just means, once again, that they're going to be under stress, and so we're going to take that into an account, and we're going to lower our expectations just a little bit. Now, I'm always going to enforce manners. It doesn't matter whether they're stressed or not. They're not allowed to bite me. They're not allowed to jump up. They're not allowed to break through doorways. So we're going to expect the manners, and we're going to show you all of these here in a few minutes. But the commands, I'm going to keep to a minimum. Now, during this demonstration, we're going to show you some amazing stays, the place command, and they're doing awesome. But we're going to take that down. We're not going to expect them to hold a 5-minute stay on their place within the first 3 days. Instead, I'll still do these commands, but I'm going to keep them really light. I'm going to keep them fun, and I'm going to make sure that I'm helping my puppy succeed. I always want to train to success, not to failure. I never want to play guess what's in my head. I want to make sure that they have all the answers to the test. So now let's just break down those 3 keys. So the first one, consistency. We are a balanced dog training program, and so we have markers for both reinforcement and correction. And you're going to want to use these same markers. They give a clear understanding of whether your puppy is doing the right thing or the wrong thing. Like I said, we want to give them lots of information, lots of feedback. So our positive markers, we have the word good and the word okay. So good is a marker that means keep going. It's an intermediary marker. So if I put them on a place, I'm going to tell them place. I'm going to say like good girl or good boy, and I'm going to enforce that you're doing the right thing. However, you are not done. Now, when they are finished with that command, when I'm releasing them from that stay, then I'll use the word okay. So okay marks the correct behavior. It tells them that they're released from a stay and that they've done the right thing. And so it's really important to use these markers to give them that information. Once again, I'll tell them good. So that's good job, keep going. Okay, you're finished, you're able to get off, you're able to maybe venture out a little bit, give them a little bit of freedom. Okay just means that you're done with that behavior at that time. Now, we also are giving them rewards during this time. So your puppy right now is very food motivated. That is their currency. Just as you would not go to work if you did not receive a paycheck, your puppy is not going to work for you unless they're being rewarded or they're paid out. Now, eventually, as they get a little bit older, we can wean those rewards off. There's also times where I don't want to use a food reward. But right now, and especially during this transition period, we want to use a high value reward. And so I'll give them a little piece of treat. I might give them some ham or hot dogs or maybe a little bit of cheese, something high value, just to really drive this point home that I'm going to reward you and that I have the same expectations and that this is very positive for working for me. Now, there are going to be times where you don't have food on you, and that's where I'll use praise and affection. And of course, I mix that in with everything. I want to praise my dog. I want to show them affection and really show them that they're doing the right thing. Now, if I'm using a toy as a reward, which a toy is a good form of a reward, that's when I do not want to have treats on me. I want them to be focused on that toy. Because the moment that I pull out a treat, then they're going to forget about the toy and they're going to want to work for food. And I want them to have a good toy drive because that's a really important way to mentally stimulate your dog as well as meet their physical needs so that we can give them exercise. So those are our three primary forms of rewards. That's food, praise and affection, and toys. So use all three, but really keep it heavy on simple treats right now. Really drive this point home. Now, when we talk about a correction, so that's our second part of consistency. Like I said, you have to have both. I do not believe that you need to physically dominate your dog. I want our relationship to be built out of respect for me as the leader. And so I give them, once again, a lot of feedback, but my correction a lot of times is just no, and that's all it is. Dogs read our voice fluctuation and our body language very, very well. And so me changing my voice and just giving them a sharp no is all the correction I need. Now, once your dog fixes their mistake, then I'm not going to carry on this correction for a long period of time because your dog's not going to understand. They're just going to think that you're mad at them. And so the correction needs to be quick, it needs to be timely, and then we're done. So like I said, no is kind of that primary correction. Sometimes it's whatever comes out of my mouth, depending on the severity or depending on the action. Now, to kind of give you an example, once again, if I'm working with them and I put them in a stay and they break, it happens all the time because once again, we learn a lot through failure. Now, if they break a stay, I'm not going to get mad. It's not that big a deal. We're working, we're training and learning. And so I'll just simply, no, and then I'll have them do it again. I will always end on a correct behavior. I am never going to end on a failure. And if I have to break a behavior down to make sure that we get that correct repetition, I will. Now, if they do something a little bit more serious, maybe they jump up on me, which is one of my biggest pet peeves, then I'm going to give them a little bit more of a sharp correction. So it would be, no, off. My voice gets a little deeper. A lot of times I kind of puff out my chest and I'm changing my body language. Once again, that's enough of a correction. And then let's say they do something a little bit more serious, like they start to pee in the house. That's when I get frantic. And so my correction might look like, no, 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 no. And I'm just trying to get them to stop. And then I'm going to quickly take them outside. And just as important as that correction is following through and making sure I teach them what the expected behavior is, which I'll get to in just 1 minute. The last part of a correction I want to talk about is a physical correction. Now, once again, I don't believe you need to physically dominate your dog, but there is power, once again, in telling your dog no, and I will accompany that with a leash pop, which is just pop, pop. I'm not trying to yank them around. It's not to inflict any harm. The purpose of that is to regain their attention to then change their behavior. Now, once again, I don't want to injure my dog. I don't want to yank them around. It is not to inflict harm at all. It is simply to regain composure. So that's consistency. You need to consistently reward. You need to consistently correct. You have to have both. Whatever you reinforce will get replicated. And so if you are not consistent and the only time you give your dog feedback is when they're doing something wrong, guess what? They're probably not going to respect you, and instead it's going to be more of a fear-based relationship, which is what we don't want. So even if my puppy is just laying at my feet chewing on something they're supposed to, I might simply just bend down, pet them a little bit, tell them they're being a good boy. We want to give them that feedback, and especially as you're working with them, as you start to implement the commands and the leash work, give them that feedback. It is going to build your relationship more than anything you can do. So be consistent. Once again, anytime I give my dog a correction, I want to then follow through and help them understand what the correct behavior is. So that's where key number 2 comes in. So key number 2, follow through. Like I said, anytime that I correct my dog, I want to then teach them what the expected behavior is. So I'm always going to follow through. Whether I ask them to do a command and they are confused or maybe they ignore me, or whether they're doing something they're not supposed to and we catch them in the act. The follow through is a little bit different on each one. So first off, let's talk about maybe you're sitting there and you see your puppy go over and start to try and chew on a baseboard or chew on something they're not supposed to. This is where we use a concept that we call marking and redirecting. So if I saw them start chewing on something they weren't supposed to, I'm going to immediately correct them. So that correction is no. Now, once I correct them, they look at me, I'm going to redirect them into an appropriate behavior. So even if they don't look at me, I'm then going to remove them from that situation. So we'll use the example of chewing on a baseboard. I'll tell them no. Now I'm going to take them over to maybe their bed and I'll give them something to chew on. And so marking the incorrect behavior, redirecting into an appropriate behavior. Now during this puppy stage, puppies need to chew. And so my redirection, I'm going to try and match texture. They were chewing on a baseboard, maybe I'll give them a bully stick or a marrow bone, something hard that they can really get into. If they want to chew on maybe one of your pillows or a soft bed, give them a plush toy. They're chewing on their leash, give them a rope. Try and match those needs, match consistency. So you can do that with a lot of different behaviors. Even jumping is another one. A lot of times if your puppy's jumping, I'll correct them for jumping and then I'll redirect them into an appropriate behavior like a sit. So we teach them, if they want our attention, they've got to do this behavior. This is a good behavior versus the bad behavior. Now let's talk about follow through if they ignore you or maybe don't understand. So let's use the example of jumping on the couch. Let's say we're in the kitchen, we're cooking, we look over and Marley is jumping up on the couch. So I would immediately say, Marley, off, giving her a command. If she gets down and listens to that, then I'm going to reward her. So I'm going to reinforce the behavior that she just performed. If she got down, maybe came over to me, I'm going to pet her. I'm going to tell her she's a good girl because she fixed her mistake. And so the correction is done. She did the right behavior after she was asked. That's all that needs to happen. Now, if she didn't, if she had her paws up there and she looked over her shoulder like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? You're over there. I will not repeat the command. The worst thing you can do is sit there and go, Marley, off, get down, get off the couch. Because you're just giving her a whole spiel of what she doesn't understand. If she doesn't do the behavior when asked, I am not going to repeat the command. I will correct her. So if I said, Marley, off, and she didn't get down, I am then going to say no, and now I'm going to start to approach her. I'm going to walk across the room. Even if I am comfortable wrapped up in a blanket, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go and remove her. Now, if she fixed her mistake with that prompt, if I said no and I started to motion towards her and she got down, I'm going to reward that behavior. I'll call her over, have her sit, praise her, make sure that she understands that, yes, that's exactly what I want. That's a good girl. Now, if she still ignored you and kept trying to get up onto the couch, or maybe succeeded and now is trying to get comfortable, I am going to walk all the way over to her, and at that point I will repeat the correction. I will not repeat the command. I will tell her no again, and now I'm going to remove her and I am going to redirect her into an appropriate activity. Whether that's you're going to come over by me, you're going to lay on the floor, you're going to chew on a toy, or maybe it's, okay, I can't watch you very well right now, you're just going to go take a little break in the crate. Now I'm not going to be super mad and shove her in the crate and make it a big deal, because then you're going to destroy the crate. Instead, the correction has already happened. Now I'm redirecting her into something appropriate to do. And so the correction is done. I do not need to carry on this frustration or this anger after the correction has happened. But I am always going to give them that correction, and I am always going to follow through. Now, let's just say that I gave your puppy a command, and so I put them in. Sorry, let me take that back. Let's just say that I asked them for a sit. So I said sit, gave them a hand signal, and they looked at me like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen this command before. Now, instead of getting frustrated and repeating myself, I'm going to maybe adjust my body language. The worst thing you can do is go sit, sit, no sit, sit, because they're not going to understand at that point. Dogs don't speak English. They understand the sound of our voice making that sound of sit. And so they know that it's one time. So sit is the command, not sit, 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 sit. So one time, ask them once. Now, once again, if they look up at me like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm going to give them a few seconds to think about it. Dogs are not robots. They have to process things. And at the same time, while I'm allowing them to process, maybe I'll adjust my body language. So maybe I'll kind of lean forward or make the hand gesture. But I'm going to help them succeed. Now then, if they blatantly ignored me and just tried to walk off, that is when I will correct them. I will say, no, now I'm going to reset. So I'm going to bring them back to the same area and ask them again. But I will only repeat the command if they completely walk away. If they are focused on me, just trying to understand what I am asking, I will not repeat the command, but I will adjust my body language to help them succeed. If they ignore me or they run off, then I will implement a correction and reset to where I will repeat the command. So hopefully that makes sense. If you do have any questions on any of this, please let me know. But follow through is super important. The moment that you don't follow through, the moment you call your dog to come and they run the other direction and you say, I'll get them later, is the moment that your dog loses respect for you and are going to try and push more and more buttons or try and push more and more boundaries. So it is so important that you follow through and help your dog succeed. Give them necessary feedback and information. So that was key number 2. We've got consistency, number 1, follow through, number 2, and now number 3, which is management. Management is going to be the most important thing you do throughout this transition period. When we manage our dog, we maintain control and we provide an environment where they don't even have the opportunity to create bad habits. Good management when bringing a puppy home is 100% supervision. 100% supervision is active eyes on them at all times. That's not, well, I saw them a few minutes ago. You have to know what they're doing at all times, what they have in their mouth, what they're getting into, where they're laying down, all of it. 100% supervision. Now, there are some good management tools to help you along the way. The crate is your best management tool. You know that if they're in the crate, they're not chewing something up, they're not destroying a family heirloom, and they're not peeing. So use the crate to your advantage. Anytime you cannot give them 100% supervision, use the crate as management. Use a leash. I let my puppies drag around just a really lightweight 4-foot leash for the first few weeks that they're in my house. That way I have a quick way to grab them if needs be, or to take them outside. I will also keep them on a long lead until I've built a relationship to where I know that they are going to follow through and they are going to come back when called. So that once again, this way, they do not have an opportunity to run off and not listen to me. They don't have an opportunity to create a bad habit. Now, as we go throughout the manners, we're going to talk about how to manage those each individually because they're all managed a little bit differently. But the key points to remember is 100% supervision. That is the most important thing you are going to do over this transition period. Know where your dog is at all times. And once again, that's not, oh, I knew where they were 2 minutes ago. It's, I know where they are now, I know what they're chewing on. Because if you walk around the corner and your dog has had an accident and you don't see it, there's nothing you can do. And so by good management, you provide the opportunity to develop a relationship as well as to create a set of expectations that your dog understands and that are going to set you up for success. So recap, the 3 keys: be consistent, both rewarding and correcting. Lots of feedback is important. Whatever you reinforce will get replicated. If you ask them to do something, follow through. Do not allow your dog to get away with ignoring you or ending on an incorrect behavior. Always train to success, not to failure. And make sure that you follow through. If you ask them to do it, help them succeed. And the last one, management. Manage your dog, 100% supervision. You know what they are getting into at all times. You know where they are. That is going to set you up for success. So now we're going to switch gears and we're going to pull out your puppy and we're going to walk through all of the training with you. As you watch this video, please write down questions and then give me a phone call or an email. We want to help you succeed. We want to make sure that this transition is as smooth as possible. And that is, once again, the purpose of this video is to help you. And so if you have any questions, please let us know. But we're very happy with where your puppy's at and excited to show off this training. All right, so now we're going to dive into the more demonstrating part of the video. We're going to start with his manners, then we'll go through the obedience commands, the house training, the crate training, and finish it off with some leash training. Before we do that, just to reiterate, it is so important that we are consistent, we follow through, and we manage our dog. Wally is definitely a high management dog. He is one that is very, very active and always likes to be doing something, as well as he's always looking to put something in his mouth. So you are going to have to manage your dog, which just means, once again, we're going to make sure that we know what he's doing at all times. And if he does start to do something we don't want, we're going to quickly correct it and give him something appropriate to do. So now we're going to dive into our manners. First manner I'm going to show you, is his gates and doorways. So anytime Wally comes out of the crate, we go through a house door, a gate, anything that has a threshold with a closed door, I expect Wally to hold a stay. Now, he doesn't have to sit or lay down. He just has to show me that he's in control. I'm looking for that pause. I'm looking for him to pay attention to me. And then once I have that control, I will release him and allow him to come through. Now, if he just breaks through, then I'm going to tell him no, and I'm going to do it again. He does not get to just escape if he thinks that he's fast enough or sneaky enough. It is really, really important that you tell him no and do it again. So just as you'll see when I'm getting him out of the crate, I also don't want to build a charge. I'm not going to just fling this door open and all of a sudden get super excited. Instead, I'm going to be calm. As you know from reading the manual, we talk a lot about calm leadership. If I portray calm, he's going to be more calm. If I portray anxious and pent-up energy, that's what he's going to do. He's going to mirror whatever emotion or whatever energy level we're portraying. So when I open the crate, I might do it gradually, make sure that he's in control. When I open a house door, I'll open that and maybe I'll put myself in a position where I can block that threshold. And by blocking it, I might lift up my leg and block him if he tried to walk through. Or I will also use that leash, and if he tried to go through, I'll give him 2 simple pops and tell him no. Once again, I'm not going to tell him to stay. I am going to expect that he will be in control and wait for me to release him. Now, if you have a door that's just always open, or the door's been open for 10 minutes, I'm not going to put all my faith in a puppy that he's going to go up, recognize that threshold, and just sit there and wait. Instead, once again, we're going to manage that. That's why we do these thresholds with closed doors. As he gets older and you continue to practice, that can easily translate to open doors, but for right now, it's every closed door. So, I'm going to grab my leash and we're going to let him out. Good boy. Okay. Now, if he would have tried to stick a paw out or tried to come out without me saying okay, I would just simply maybe use my leg and block him, or I might even shut the door. Good boy, come here. And I'll show you, or you'll notice the house door when we go outside here in a few minutes. But that's our doorways. Once again, closed doors, expect him to wait at the threshold for that okay. Now his greeting. So what his greeting is, it is a replacement behavior for jumping. We've taught Wally that if he wants my attention, he has to sit to get it. He can't be jumping all over me. He can't be running around crazy. He has to sit in order to get my attention. Now, this is a behavior of respect. And so he's going to have to build a relationship for you. So he might not automatically just sit down. Now, we've been working on that with strangers very heavily. And this is something we'll show you when you come and get Wally. If I call him over, though, I expect him to sit. And so to build this up, what you're going to do is what we call an engagement exercise. So I'm just going to, hey, take the leash. I'm going to call Wally to me, take a few steps backwards so he follows me, good boy, and then wait for him to sit down. The first time you do this, if he doesn't automatically sit, I might just kind of take a step into him and help him out. But the expectation is after a few reps of this, he's just sitting automatically. Nope. And so you're going to practice this for the next few days. And anyone that's going to be regularly interacting with Wally, I would have them practice this. So once again, leash, couple treats. I'll say, Wally. Good boy. Okay, good boy. Wally. Once he sits. Okay, good boy, good boy. Now also, I'll give him a little bit of feedback for following me. That's where the first time I do it, every once in a while, I'll just say, good boy, when he's following. Then once he sits, okay, good boy. So it's very, very simple, but this is just building relevancy. It's teaching Wally that he needs to pay attention to you and that it's very rewarding to pay attention to you. Now, the expectation is that he will eventually do this with every person he meets. But strangers can be really exciting. And so I'm not going to expect that a puppy's going to do this for every new stranger. And in fact, I honestly don't want him to do it for every stranger because I don't want him to meet every stranger. Otherwise, you're going to build a charge. But if you do want him to meet somebody or somebody asks you, hey, if they can come up and pet your dog, if you're allowing that, I'll say, yeah, of course, just give me 1 second. And I will put Wally into a sit, or I'll have him do this greeting for me. I will go down and pet him, maybe give him a treat, make it really rewarding, and then I will invite that person up. But I do not want Wally going up and greeting people quite yet. I want him to show that he's in control. I also want to teach him that I'm the greatest thing here. I'm the reward, and then once he's in control for me, I can allow that person to come up and meet him. You'll also notice once he does this greeting and I go down and pet him, I don't expect that he has to stay sitting. He's okay to stand up. In fact, he likes to lean into me a little bit. No, don't you mouth on me. And so he's okay to get up, but if he starts getting out of control and he wants to jump, then I'm going to stand up and I'm going to reset. So that's his greeting. Once again, it's a replacement behavior for jumping. And if he does try and jump, I'm going to tell him off. So that's our command for jumping. If he's trying to jump up on me, when I tell him off, I'm going to step into him and bring my knee up and block him. I'm not trying to punt him across the room. It is just a clear message of absolutely not. Do not do that to me. If he tries to jump up from behind, same thing. I'll just kind of bring my leg up and block him. The point, once again, is not to cause harm. It is to say, no, you're not okay with that. Once he sits, then of course, I'm going to give him that feedback. I'm going to tell him he's a good boy. Whatever you reinforce will get replicated. So if all you're doing is telling him no when he jumps up on you, but then not reinforcing the good behavior, he's going to continue to jump because he knows that that's going to get a reaction out of you. Now, it's also important that if you feel like, or you start thinking like, well, he might jump up on me, and he's running directly at you, it's important not to step back. Because just as that greeting or that engagement exercise, as soon as I step back, that's an invitation to follow. So instead, I'm always going to step into him, which that can be really hard for kids, but it is very important in kind of canine body language, if you will. I'm always going to step in. You'll also notice if I step in, he sits pretty quick. Okay. Now, once again, that's really hard for kids to do. And if Wally decides that he wants to start jumping up on children, I'm going to make sure that I practice. I'm going to take the leash. I'm going to walk Wally up and maybe have the child invite him over. If he tries to jump, it's no, pop, pop. Now we're going to walk away. I will get further from the children if he wants to jump. And I will practice that back and forth until Wally shows that he can be in control and he can sit down to greet them. Now, if he tries to jump up on furniture or anything like that, the command is still off. I'm going to tell him off, maybe drive that home with a clap. and I'm going to enforce it. If I have to walk all the way over there and get him off, that's what I will do. If you just sit across the room and say, no, off, Wally, off, then you're teaching him that your command doesn't mean anything. You ask for it once. If he doesn't follow through, or if he doesn't do it, no. I will tell him no, and then go and enforce it. I will then follow through. Okay, so let's talk about chewing and mouthing. So Wally is in the heat of his chewing phase. So he's lost a couple of his teeth, but he still has a lot to lose. And in fact, it'll probably be within the next couple weeks that he starts just dropping teeth like crazy. He's been extra mouthy and chewy the last couple weeks, and so we've been managing that very heavily. It is so important that we give our dog plenty of things to chew on, but not at the same time. I don't want to just give him a plethora of toys and then see what happens, because chances are with Wally, he's going to get bored and then go find something different to chew on. So I will give him options, but if he just walks away from it, I take it away, give him something different. It's also important to manage this behavior. So if you see him start chewing on something he's not supposed to, tell him no, and then redirect him into an appropriate behavior or an appropriate thing to chew on. Really match textures as best as you can. If he's chewing on something soft, give him something soft. If he's chewing on something hard, give him something hard. He wants to keep chewing on a leash, I'm going to give him a rope. Because he is chewing based on what he feels like his mouth needs. So if we're just ignoring that, and he's really trying to chew on a table leg, but we keep giving him a soft toy, no. Then he's going to continue to chew on the table leg because he needs something hard. And just like this, he keeps wanting to chew. I don't have a rope toy with me. So instead, I'm going to give him a bully stick, which is a high value reward. And chances are that's kind of a cure-all because he loves bully sticks. So match the texture. Make sure that you do correct him though. Just like how he was teething or he was kind of chewing on the leash, I made sure to tell him no. He tried it again, so now I'm going to make sure that I redirect him into an appropriate behavior. Boredom is your number one cause of chewing as well. So if he just has a downtime where he's just hanging out, just give him something to chew on. If he's going to be kicked outside for a little while, he's going to be out in the backyard, he's not going to exercise himself. And if he goes and finds something to do, chances are you're not going to like it. So give him something to do. That's just good management, and especially with the chewing. The other thing is exercise. A tired dog is a good dog, so make sure that you give him plenty of exercise and he will be less destructive, and that way he'll be able to calm down a little bit easier. But exercise is going to be very, very important for your chewing. Now with mouthing, he is not allowed to put his teeth on me. Doesn't matter whether it's my clothes, my hand, my drawstrings, hat, hair, whatever. He is not allowed to put his teeth on me. And just like you saw, he thought about it. He just kind of grabbed my pants while I was sitting down next to him, and I quickly told him no, and I grabbed his muzzle. Now, I'm not clamping down. I'm not trying to hurt him, but it's just right over the top, and it's no. And I'm just going to hold it for a second, make sure that he understands, like, hey, that's not okay, and then I'll give him another try. So then I'll go back to petting him. If he tried it twice, I'm going to tell him no, hold that muzzle. Now I'm walking away. I'm removing his greatest joy, which is us, and soon to be you. And so he's basically in a timeout from us. If he wants to mouth on me, he is not allowed to be around me. If I then went back after a minute or two and he tried it again, then I'm going to casually put him in the crate. I'm not going to carry on this frustration. I'm not going to, no, Wally, you know better, and then shove him in the crate, because then you're using the crate as a punishment, where instead I want to use the crate as management. I'm putting him in an environment where I know that he's not going to chew on something. So, but he is going to need to chew, and so make sure that you give him things to chew on. Oh, good boy. Now, also, you should be able to take things away from him, whatever he is chewing on. We've worked very hard on a drop it command and made this very, very fun, and it's important to make it very fun. 95% of your drop-its should be just included into his play. Oh, good boy. And Wally loves toys. Loves toys. So use them to your advantage. Good boy. Good boy. Drop it. Good boy. When he drops it, I just throw it again for him. Make it fun. And don't always immediately ask him to drop it and take it away from him. Sometimes I'll even ask him to drop it and then give it right back to him, because I don't want him to think that this is just a game of me taking stuff away from him. Oh, Good boy, good boy, good boy. Wally, drop it. No. Good boy. So I gave him a second to process it. He didn't immediately drop it, so then I took it away. Now, if I have to take it away, good boy, I'm going to make him earn it back. By him earning it back, it's just him showing that he's in control. I asked for a little sit there, and then I threw it. So let's try it again. I'm going to give him just a second here. Wally, drop it. No. Good boy. So he didn't immediately spit it out. I take it from him. But you'll notice as soon as I go to take it from him, like where he's not spitting it out, he immediately lets go. So it's kind of like that fine line there where he's testing, gonna see what I'm doing. Wally, drop it. No. See, and then he lets me take it away. So he's kind of just being funny with it, which, once again, that's up to you to decide. I actually don't mind if he keeps it in his mouth until I ask him to drop it, because that's what I do with my dogs. But if it's something he's not supposed to have, once again, I want him to get rid of it. Wally. Good boy, good boy, good boy, good boy. Now, I can play with him. Good boy. I just want to make sure that he's not going to grab my hands, and once I ask him to be done, he needs to be done. Wally, drop it. Good boy, good boy. So, use toys to your advantage. This is probably his favorite reward. I mean, he's food motivated, but he loves play. Oh, good boy, good boy. Oh, that's a good boy. Now, if I do have to take it away from him, there's a couple different options. There's one where I just take and I put my hands on both sides, and I'm just going to hold it really still. It's no longer fun. No. He's not allowed to yank it around. No. Good boy. So I'm just going to hold it, keep it really still. Now, the second way is just to come right over his muzzle, and so I'm just going to curl his lips around his teeth. So it's just, and he'll just pop it out, which is his least favorite. Oh, good boy. So if he has it, it's just boop, and you can see he quickly lets go. He knows that that recourse is coming. Good boy. But he's never allowed just to take it and run away from me if I ask him to drop it. So once again, give him a second to process though. So if I tell him, drop it, good boy, which you guessed, you guessed. Give him a second to process, then tell him no, then take it away. Wally. Good boy. Drop it. Good dog. Now, if I was then done playing with him, I would probably replace it. So I'd give him a treat, tell him good boy. But when I'm actually playing with him, I don't want to have treats out, because if I give him a treat every time he drops it, pretty soon he's going to ignore the toy and just go for the treat. Good boy. Now, especially with kids around, having a toy out is very, very valuable, because it's going to direct him towards the toy and he's not going to put teeth on children. So toys are very, very good. And have a big toy, something where he can't really grab fingers. Wally, come here. Good boy. Drop it. Good boy. Good boy. Okay. So our last part of our manners, the next one would be handling. So we spent a lot of time just making sure Wally is comfortable with me handling him. His mouth, his ears, his paws. Come here. And so, just to show, hey, Wally. Good boy. Drop it. Good boy. So, when I handle him, I want to make it really rewarding. But you can see he's not going to fight me. He's not going to bite me. I want him to be very, very comfortable. Good boy. I can pick him up. Oh, dropped your toy. Huh. So Wally hated to be handled early on. Didn't like being flipped over. Absolutely hated his mouth being touched, his ears. So we spent a lot of time working on that, and that's something you're going to need to continue handling his paws. Otherwise, he's going to fight you when you clip his nails. Same thing, checking his teeth. We try and handle them just like they would at a vet's office or a groomer's. So practice. Wally, drop it. Good boy. And the last manner is gently. So I want to make sure that Wally's not going to take my hand off when I give him treats. So we've taught him the command gently. And in general, when I give him a treat, I give it to him in the palm of my hand, and then I usually tuck it underneath my thumb. Now, if he's real excited and he lunged up, I will pull that away and tell him gently. He does not get the treat unless all 4 paws are on the ground. Wally. Good boy. I also do not want to feel his teeth. So if I started to feel his teeth, pull it away, tell him gently. I do not recommend giving a dog a treat between your thumb and forefinger, but we've practiced that because kids have the hardest time with that. Wally, come here. Gently. No. Good boy. And I expect him to be very, very nice. So, all right. For his feeding, I expect him to hold an automatic sit stay. So I usually just shake that bowl, he plants himself, and then it's an expected stay. If he pops up, I'll just pull that bowl up and tell him no. If he continued to pop, then I might actually tell him stay, but it should be automatic. Okay, good boy. Good boy. Now we've also spent a lot of time handling him when he eats. He had a little bit of food, resource guarding when we first got him, and especially towards other dogs. He really hasn't portrayed it towards humans very much. But I want to make sure that he's comfortable with me around his food. He's not going to growl, he's not going to tense up or get aggressive. He hasn't been resource guarding for people like at all anymore. Every once in a while with toys, he will with other dogs, but once again, not with humans. So we want to make sure that we handle him, that we pet him, that every once in a while we throw good things in his bowl just to make sure that he knows that it's a positive thing when we're around. I don't want to always just sit there and take it away. Every once in a while I'll do that, but I mean, we wouldn't like it if somebody came and grabbed our plate. So same thing. Instead, I want to make sure that it's a positive experience. And same thing with him, with his toys and his chews. I want to make sure that I'm around, I'm handling them, and that it's a positive experience. So with that, now we're going to move into our obedience commands. So the first couple commands we're going to show you. We're going to show you our hand signals for sit, down, and stay. And then we'll go over place, crate, and leave it. So our hand signals, sit is just a scoop over the nose. It's palm up, fingers closed, and it's just a slight gesture. Down, I turn my hand flat, palm down, and down off to the side of my hip and expect him to go down. Now, if he hesitates, I might adjust my body language to help him out. And then stay is just a stop sign. Wally, come here. Sit. Good boy. Down. So once again, I'm going to wait him out for a second. If he's a little confused, then I'll just lower. Okay, good boy. Adjust my body language. Wally. Let me get a treat out there. Good boy. Sit. Stay. So we have both a sit and a down stay. Both of them, Wally's doing 20 seconds. These are a lot slower moving than some of our dogs because Wally has a very active mind. He gets distracted very easily. So it's been a process. So also don't expect him to do 20-second stays with distractions right off the bat. Okay, good boy. You'll also notice there he folded into a down, which I'm fine with, from a sit stay. But a down stay, he's never allowed to come up. Wally, come here. Sit. Down. Good. Stay. Notice I had to wait for those elbows to hit the ground because he tests a lot. He's like, oh, is this good? I'm halfway there. Is this good? So you need to make sure that those elbows are on the ground. You also notice I make sure that he's looking at me when I tell him to stay. No. So there, he broke. Food was too heavy of a distraction. No. So I'm going to bring him right back over and reset him. Down. No. Stay. You'll also notice I'm giving him a lot of just simple feedback. He tried to come forward and check out what's in my hand. I just told him no, and he fixed his mistake. So it doesn't need to be this big, huge correction. Okay, good boy, good boy. Now it's really important though, with the down that you're patient with him. Give him time to process it. Don't just immediately go to this. Like, I'm going to hold my hand and then gradually bend over. And he's going to understand that body language. Now, with the place command, place is a universal command, or we try and make it universal, so we practice this on like rugs, on towels, blankets, pallets, obviously the bed. So it's really important when I ask him place that I get close. I use my body language to give him information. Okay, Wally, good boy. So I'll step close and I'll say, place. Now once all 4 paws are on, I'll tell him, good boy, and I'll give him a treat. Now as he continues to stay, I will continually go up and reward him. Now obviously it might be a minute or a couple minutes apart, but when he's staying, and especially if there's heavy distractions, I'm going to reinforce this behavior. So it's good boy, good boy. This is also why I give him more treats when he's on the bed, and I don't give him any treats when he comes off, because I don't want to build a charge. I want him to think that the longer he stays, the more treats he's going to get. Good boy. Yeah. So if he breaks place, I'll just take him back. And so you'll notice, though, sometimes throwing in praise like that can be too much for Wally. He's just like, oh, I should come over to you. Good boy. When I reset him, I'm not going to immediately give him a treat for going right back on, because he broke. But if he shows me that he's in control and now he's staying, then once again, I'm going to reinforce that. Good boy. Okay. Good boy. Now the crate is very similar. I'm going to orient my body and I'm going to point. Wally, crate. Good boy. He gets the treat when he goes in, but not for coming out. Okay. Wally, crate. Now if he hesitates, I'm just going to stay here, keep my hand out, give him an opportunity to process. Okay. But if he was confused, I might just tap on top. Wally, and just expect him to go in. Good boy. So this is the crate command, and we'll talk about what happens when he stays in the crate here in just a few minutes. Okay. Good boy, good boy. Wally, crate. Good dog. Now, I do want to practice this command a lot. Okay, because if you only use it when you're going to lock him up, he's going to learn that, and then he's not going to want to go in because he associates it with you leaving. So practice it a lot, going in and out just to get treats, and that's it. Wally, place. Good boy. You notice it doesn't have to be a firm correction there. He just stepped off. Simple correction. Good to go. Okay, good boy. So lastly is leave it. Now I'm going to use one of the treats that I've been feeding him as leave it, so it's a little bit harder. Obviously with leave it, you're going to practice this and use it a lot more, like when you're out on walks or maybe you're in the kitchen, you drop something. Those are really good times to use leave it. But with a treat, I'm going to have a hold of the leash and I'm going to make sure that I manage this and make sure that we train to success. So I'm going to toss this on the ground, which, oh, there you go. Leave it. No. Good. So you notice he got a little close, so I just gave him a simple leash correction. I wasn't yanking him away, but I wanted to make sure that he knew that it is leave it. I'm also using a higher value reward now because I put that one on the ground, so I want what I have to be more enticing than what he's leaving. I'm also only going to use leave it for things that I can take away or I can take Wally away from. Good boy. And I'm going to continually reward him for leaving it. Good boy. And you can see how he almost gets as far away from it as possible. Now, if I was on a walk and I came across like some roadkill, as I walked past, I'd be like, good boy, good boy, good boy. Constantly rewarding him so that it's really positive for him just to ignore it. So the most important thing is even after we're done with the leave it, he does not get to run up and chew on that thing, whether it's a treat like this or anything else. Leave it means leave it permanently. So we don't use leave it for things that he's going to have constant access to. Like if he gets obsessed with a potted plant in your house, that's a no, not a leave it. Okay. That's our obedience commands. Now we're going to jump in and talk about crate training and house training. So crate training. So we spent a lot of time on crate training, just making sure that it was a place that was comfortable, somewhere where he could relax and feel secure. So once again, it's also your biggest management tool, and it's something to rely on very, very heavily. So you're going to use the crate both at night and during the day. If you only use it at night, never during the day, then you're going to get a dog that maybe becomes a little bit reluctant to go in because they associate it with being locked up for long periods of time, as well as, once again, I just recommend using it during the day as a form of management. So at night, he's sleeping from 10 to 6, no problem, not having accidents, not being vocal. He's just solid through the night. I am going to recommend that the first night that you get home, maybe setting an alarm for halfway through the night, maybe 1 or 2 a.m., and letting him out just to make sure that we don't have any sort of accidents in the crate, because the transition period often causes dogs to have to go to the bathroom more frequently than normal. So we're just going to use a little bit of preventative measure there. It's also going to be important that you don't feed him past 6 p.m. We feed him between 5:30 and 6. And that way he has a good 4 hours to clear out his system. I'm also going to take away I'm going to take away water by 7 or 8 p.m. Because also puppies that are under some stress will drink as much water as they can physically hold, and then they're peeing all the time. So then when you get him up in the morning, so we get up about 6, we give him a chance to go to the bathroom, and then we feed him because that's what works best for our schedule. Now you can adjust that morning schedule any way that you want. That's just what works best for us. However, for the evening schedule, I would not feed him past 6 p.m. and once again make sure that water is taken away. Also during this transition period, because dogs will engorge themselves in water, it's important to regulate that. Don't just give him free access. Give it to him with meals and then like 2 or 3 other times throughout the day. Obviously we don't want him to get dehydrated. We want to make sure that he has access to water. After he's transitioned, then he can have full access. We give him unlimited access here because also we're trying to set him up and get him to go to the bathroom as much as possible. So that's crate during the night. During the day, it's going to be important that you put him in the crate both when you're home and when you're away. If you only put him in the crate when you leave, he's going to associate that with you leaving. That's how you get a dog with some separation anxiety. So make sure you use both. He's also good to be in the crate for 30 seconds up to 4 hours. Once again, he's been doing very, very well with the crate, and I would highly suggest that you utilize that and make sure the crate's in an area where he can still feel part of the family. You don't want him in a basement or somewhere that you rarely go. You want it somewhere where he has access to the crate and where he can hear you, he can see you, and still be part of the family and not associate the crate with being, locked away. Now, troubleshooting the crate. So one, if he hesitates to go in, I'm going to wait him out for a little bit, but if he tries to walk away, I'm just going to guide him underneath the collar. But once again, his crate command is really, really good. He does awesome with that, as you saw earlier. Now, if he starts making noise in the crate, one, it's very, very important that we ignore it. You never let him out if he is whining or making noise in the crate. Even if you think that he has to go to the bathroom, he's going to explode any second, ask for some silence, wait a few seconds, then let him out. So we use the command hush. But the first time that you put him in the crate is when you might see this behavior, or maybe within the first 3 days, and he's just seeing what he can get away with. So once again, it's very important that we ignore that behavior. I will never let him out because he is whining. It's also important that we don't go up when he's doing this and stick our fingers in the crate or be like, oh, it's okay, I'll let you out soon. We don't want any of that positive attention, because then you're just going to teach him that if he whines or if he throws a fit, that you're going to come to his aid, even if it just gets your attention. So ignore that behavior. If it carries on for a few minutes, then I will cover him. So if you have a wire crate, get a cover. If you have one of these plastic ones, just get a blanket, something to drape over, because dogs are a lot like parrots in the fact that if they can't see what's going on, they're just going to relax a little bit quicker. So utilize that cover. You can also tell him hush. So I'll say, no, hush, and then I might tap on the crate, maybe a little tap with my foot. I'm not kicking it. I'm not trying to scare him. It's just a quick noise to break him out of the reverie. But I am not going to let him out if he's crying. The other thing, as you get him home, he is going to be a little bit stressed out. So don't just sleep in front of his crate. Don't just be face to face, because once again, we don't want to create any separation anxiety there. But Wally's been doing super with the crate. When we first got him, he absolutely hated it. it was more of a scream than it was a bark. So it's taken us some time, but right now he's doing very, very good. He's not having accidents and he's not making noise. On that note, I will not put toys or soft things in the crate for him, because right now he's in this teething phase and he's just gonna destroy anything you put in there, whether it's a towel, a blanket, a pad, whatever. Same thing with the toys. And once they destroy it, they have nothing left to do other than eat it, and then you have a very expensive vet bill. So once you get through the chewing phase and you know that he's not gonna pee on anything, then you can give him something soft, but I'm still not gonna put any toys in there. I will put like marrow bones or a long bully stick, something like that to help him calm down and to chew on. But no toys. So that's crate training. Now let's talk about our house training. This is going to be the part of the program that requires the most effort on your part, because it's going to be 2 weeks of a mild inconvenience for a lifetime of good house training. So Wally is doing awesome here. He has full access to our front room. He hasn't had any accidents in quite a while. He's really good about ringing the bells, so we've given him more freedom. But remember, freedom in your home is earned, it is not given. So to start off, don't just give him full access. Make sure that you manage him. I like to use baby gates and block off part of my house, and then most importantly, 100% supervision. He has to earn this freedom. So once again, he's doing really, really well, but now he's leaving a familiar environment, going to an unfamiliar environment, and so we want to just make sure that we manage him and manage in preparation that there might be a little regression. Now, regression doesn't mean accidents. Again, it just means that we're going to work harder at it. So I'm going to give you a really strict schedule to follow for the first 2 weeks, but before I get to that, look for indicators. As he is in your house, if he starts sniffing really heavily, starts panting, pacing, spinning little circles, those are indicators that he needs to go to the bathroom, and so we're just going to get him out. If you have that gut feeling like, I think he needs to go, just listen to him. Just listen to your gut. Just take him out. It's okay to be paranoid, especially for the first little bit. As a dog trainer, I'm just naturally paranoid. If they look at me the wrong way, sometimes I'm like, I think you need to go to the bathroom. Let's go. I would much rather take Wally out 10 times extra than clean up one mess. So give him plenty of opportunities. Also understand, as I give you this schedule, chances are for the first 2 weeks, he's probably not going to seek out the bells on his own, and that's just because you're beating him to the punch, because you're going to be taking him out frequently, making sure that we stay ahead of his bladder schedule. We're also showing him our house, teaching him our routine. So be patient with it. As you get a couple weeks in, then you'll notice him seeking out on his own. But in the meantime, we're going to heavily manage him. Again, 100% supervision. If he has an accident, I want it to be right in front of me. If you find one around the corner and you didn't know about it, you weren't watching him good enough, obviously that's our fault. We can't just then go and correct our dog because he's not going to understand that. That's why if he's going to have an accident, I want it right in front of me. At that point, my goal is to kind of startle him. I want to stop him from peeing right then. So I go, no, 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 no. And I grab him and take him outside. Once I take him outside, then my emotions change. So I go from absolutely not, do not do that, to outside, and then I'm positive. And as soon as he finishes, then I'm very positive. I reward that behavior, and that way I'm making it very black and white. It's absolutely not, you're not allowed to pee here. Yes, good boy, this is what I want you to do. Really making sure that I reinforce that good behavior. What you can't do is get mad at him, kick him outside, and then go and clean up the mess. You have to go with him so that you can mark the behavior once he finishes. Because if you just kick him outside, he's like, oh, now I get to run around and play after I just peed in the house. So we don't want any weird associations to happen. So that's that. Make sure 100% supervision. So I'm going to show you how to target the bells here in just a minute, but our schedule is what I'm going to talk about first off. So day number 1, the first 24 hours in your house, you are going to take him to the bells every 30 minutes. This does not include if he's in the crate or if he's sleeping. Obviously, we're not going to pull him out of the crate every 30 minutes. And if he's just passed out of sleep, I'm just going to wait till he wakes up. But the moment that he wakes up, we're going over to the bells and we're going outside. So day 1, every 30 minutes. Day 2, so the next 24 hours, every 45 minutes. We're just going up 15 minutes. And same thing, doesn't count if he's in the crate or sleeping. Day 3, we're going to an hour. Now, those first 3 days, I am giving him a treat every time he touches the bells and every time he goes to the bathroom outside. After day 3, I am no longer giving him a treat for touching the bells. It is only when he actually goes to the bathroom. Also, in these first 3 days, you're taking him out so frequently, I'm only going to give him maybe a minute or two to sniff around and go to the bathroom. He doesn't need 5-10 minutes because he's just going to lose his attention span, get distracted, and we're losing the association there. Okay? So make sure 1 minute, we walk around, I give him an opportunity to sniff. He's not allowed to play, he's not allowed to lay down or chase anything. It is just a focus on, hey, let's go to the bathroom. So that's the first 3 days. From day 4 to day 7, we're just gradually moving up, almost told you the wrong thing, I apologize. From day 4 to day 7, I am staying at 1 hour. I am not going to surpass 1 hour until he's been in my home for a week. Every hour, taking him to the bells, he rings them, go outside, go to the bathroom. If he goes, he gets a treat. If you see him sniffing after he pees, give him the opportunity to maybe see if he needs to go number 2. Once again, trust your gut on this. Also, once I surpass that hour, so those next few days on to the rest of his life, I'll give him a max of 3 minutes. Sniff around to go to the bathroom. So once you're at day 7 to 14, that's when we're gradually working up to 2 hours. And this all just depends on him. If you feel like you need to stay at an hour, stay at an hour. If you feel like he's doing really, really well, maybe jump up to an hour and a half or go to 2 hours. But if you feel like you had a close call, maybe I'm going to bring him back down. It's okay if that looks wavy, like your progression is wavy. It's not a constant forward progression. But as long as it's progressing in the right way, you're good. Every dog is different and every dog transitions differently. So I can't control his stress, so we're just going to see how he's transitioning and help him from there. So be patient with him, give him plenty of opportunities. Do not give him just free access to your house. I am very slow to give freedom and very quick to take it away. So with that, now I'm going to show you targeting the bells. So the activity that I'm going to do, the first part, I'm going to have the bells off the door. You're only going to do that one time, and then you're going to hang the bells on the door and they'll stay there forever. But yeah, I'll move the camera and we'll go to that point. All right, so with targeting the bell, the first part of this, the first part that I show you is what we're going to do just one time on day 1. After we do it one time, then it goes on the door and doesn't come off. So first thing, I'm going to step on his leash. I'm not going to let him just wander. I'm going to take the bells in one hand, hang them in front of him. Okay, and I'm just rewarding him for touching the bells. So I'm getting him excited about it. Okay, really easy way to get treats. Okay, good boy. After we do this about 4 or 5 times, we're going to hang him on the door. Like I said, that's super easy, just rewarding him for touching him, and it's just a quick way to get him directed towards the bells. Now, once I hang him on the door, then my wording is going to change a little bit from just okay to okay outside. And I'm just going to stand here, I'm going to stare at the bells and wait him out. Okay, outside, good boy. Now, the first time I do this, I'm going to do it like 3 or 4 times. Okay, outside. After that, every time you take him to the bells, I'll just have him ring it once. Wally. So one more time. Okay, outside. So now I'm going to take him out. I'm going to expect him to wait at the doorway. He doesn't get a barge through. If he does, I'll give him a simple correction. No. So even that, he wasn't going through, but he was progressing that way. Just a simple correction. Okay, good boy. Okay. Same thing with coming back in. I expect him to wait at the doorway. When I'm outside, first 3 days I give him a minute or 2. After that, I'll give him 3. Once again, I'm going to keep him moving around. He's allowed to sniff. He's not allowed to play. He's not allowed to chase leaves. And every once in a while I'll say outside, just encouraging him to go. Once he does go, it's okay, get outside, good boy. So, as simple as that. If you have any questions, please let me know. But now we're going to go into his leash work. So the last part of the demonstration is Wally's leash work. So in this section, we're going to talk about his heel. We're going to talk about what to do if he's pulling, what to do if he starts being reactive. So we're going to talk about engagement. We'll also talk about his long lead walk and his recall. So Wally does very, very well on a leash. But once again, he's very used to us. He has a relationship with us. He respects us as his handler. Now he's leaving this environment. He's going to a new environment with a new handler. So this is going to be the one part of the program where you need to build a relationship before you can expect it to be really snappy. He has to trust you that you are the leader, that you're going to take care of him and show him what to do. And so we're going to start out slow. When you take him on a walk, focus on him being on a long lead and throwing in the heel, 3 or 4 or 5 times throughout that walk for short durations. It is not fair to him to heel for more than that. You don't want to go for a 30-minute walk where you're expecting him to heel. That's one, he's not going to do it because he doesn't have the attention span, nor is it fair to him. But it's also important to understand that he needs to get familiar with you, his environment, and you need to show him and build that relationship, show him that you're the leader. So first we're going to talk about the heel. So once again, the heel is for you, it is not for Wally. This is when we encounter some sort of distraction, whether we're on a walk and there's a jogger coming towards us, or maybe we're out in public and we need to get through a crowd. This is when I need his focus. He's walking next to me. Not focusing on the distraction, instead he's focusing on me. This is also where I'm going to talk to my dog a lot and give him a lot of feedback, because this is a very mentally demanding activity. So when we heel, I have him on my left side, and I don't care whether he's like half a step in front of me or half a step behind, but he has to be in this area, loose leash, focusing on me. When I do that, I'll tell him heel, and we're just going to start walking. He doesn't get a sniff, he has to focus on me. Also, when I come to a stop and a heel, I expect him to stop and sit. So what this looks like is I'm going to get his attention. Wally, which we're starting to lose his attention. These demos get a little bit long. Good boy. So I'm going to reward him for focusing. Now I'm just going to tell him heel and start to walk. Heel. Good boy. So, no. You'll notice that, no. Good boy, good boy. You notice he's by my side now. He's not pulling. Good boy. As he looks up at me, I'm going to reward that behavior, which, heel. He's kind of like, why are we walking in the house? Good boy. You'll notice, though, even that where he was getting a little distracted, just those simple no, quick little leash pop, and then we're back to in control, focusing. Good boy. Good boy. And when he is walking polite, I am reinforcing that behavior. Good boy. Now, if I stop, I expect him to stop. No. And sit. Good boy. Once again, you can see just that little leash correction, and he brings his focus back up. I said, we've been going now for over an hour. He's definitely losing his focus. And so I'm going to take that into account. If he's tired, it's just like us. We start to lose our attention span as the day goes on. Heel. Good boy. But this is what our heels should look like. Now, if I want to turn into him, I'm just going to give a little leash pressure back. Good boy. If I need to turn away, you give him a little leash pressure to me. Heel. If I'm making a sharp turn, a lot of times I will repeat that heel command. Good boy, good boy. And once again, lots of feedback. Heel. Good dog. Good boy, good boy. And once again, practices, short bursts. I primarily have them on a long lead, and then as we're going, if a distraction's coming, a jogger, a biker, reel that in, put him into a heel for the next 2 minutes. Now, if he starts pulling, there's a couple different steps. First and foremost, as soon as he starts, I'm just going to tell him no. Or I might even, if he's just a little distracted, he saw a butterfly, kind of looks off, I might just do something to get his attention, like, hey, come here, something like that. If he actually starts pulling towards something, then I'm going to tell him no. I'll also accompany that with a leash pop. Pop, pop. 2 pops. Okay. If that doesn't get his attention back, if he continues to try and pull, then I'm going to come to a complete stop. We are not progressing if you are trying to pull. And if I get him back in under control, he looks up at me like, hey, why aren't we moving? we're back under control, we start to walk, and he does it again, same thing, no, pop, pop. This time, instead of just stopping walking, I'm turning around and walking away from the distraction. If you want to pull, we're going the opposite way. Now, once again, you have to encompass this with, why do I keep saying encompass? You also have to use the word no. You have to correct him. So tell him no, turn around. But I'm not just completely walking away. I'm going to start going back and forth. As soon as I get his attention on me from walking away, I'll turn and walk back towards the distraction. He starts to pull, turning back again. So it's just this quick little back and forth, and I will do that until he shows that he can be in control. We are not going to get any closer to that distraction or whatever you want to get to if you are pulling. The other thing about pulling, you'll notice as I'm standing here, he keeps kind of sniffing, he smells treat crumbs. I am not letting him pull me. Sometimes we see we're standing there talking to someone, so our dog doesn't have anything to do and our arm starts to go like this. That is an absolute no. It's nope, bringing him back to me. If he continued to do this and I was trying to have a conversation, then I would give him something to do. So I'd ask him for a sit, tell him to stay. But don't let your dog pull at all. If you give him an inch, they'll take a mile. So quickly, what this looks like if he started to pull. If we were walking towards the camera, he started to pull, didn't listen to my pop pop, I'd say no. Now I'm going to walk into him and we're walking away. Oh, you're focused? All right, let's go. Oh, you're pulling again? Walking back. So I do this back and forth, nope, until he showed that he could be in control and focus on me. Good boy. Yeah, you weren't doing anything wrong. So that's pulling. Do not let your dog pull. He will only pull if you let him pull. The moment that he starts, it's absolutely not, I'm shutting this down. Okay? It doesn't matter whether he's in a heel, on a short leash, or a long lead, he doesn't get a pull. When he's on the long lead and he starts to reach that end, that's when I call my dog back to me. I ask for a check-in, give him a treat, let him go again. I'm not going to let them pull regardless of the length of the leash. Okay? Which I'm going to put that on him in just a second. But before I do, let's talk about engagement. So engagement is what to do if your dog gets reactive. So you're on a walk and a lady with a stroller comes walking by. Wally's like, what the heck is that? And he starts barking or he starts getting nervous, kind of just gets distracted by it. So this is the act of getting my dog's attention off of a distraction and back on me. So first and foremost, if he's just watching, if he's not barking, he's in control and he's just observing, that's fine, let him observe. Even if he does react once and I tell him no, and then he just goes back to being in control but he's watching, let him watch. It's fine for him to observe the world go by. He's just not allowed to be reactive. We call it the art of doing nothing, where I just sit here, let him watch. Okay? But if he started to get reactive, if he started barking, huffing, anything like that, it's kind of the same process as pulling. I'm going to say, hey, Wally. This is where I'll also include watch me. So watch me just means put eye contact or make eye contact. So it's just watch me. Watch me. Okay, thank you. We're losing you. Huh. So, watch me. Okay, good boy. Once he makes eye contact, I say okay. So it's very simple, and that's what I'm going to do if he gets reactive, is I just want simple victories. So if we're walking, he starts barking, it's, hey, Wally. If he started to pull, I'd say no, I'm going to get distance. So I'm going to separate myself from whatever that distraction is. The difference between when he's pulling and when he's reactive is I'll get this distance and then I'm going to put my back towards the distraction, have him sit, and this way, by putting my back towards it, I'm showing him that, hey, nothing to be worried about, focus on me, all is good. If he kept doing this back and forth game around me, then I would crouch down, further enveloping him and not letting him get distracted. And it's just, hey, focus on me. And it's just, good boy, Wally, good boy. And I'm just going to reward him for focusing on me. So it's very, very simple. I don't have anybody to help me demonstrate this. So you might want to go to any of our other demonstration videos and watch the engagement section. But do not let your dog become reactive. Show him that, hey, we're good. And the biggest part of this is remaining calm. If you get nervous and you're like, oh my gosh, why are you barking? We should be anxious and pull him to the side, anything like that. then he's going to get anxious. He is, once again, a mirror. He's going to reflect your emotions, whether you're meaning to portray them or not. So we're going to be calm, we're going to keep the leash slack, and we're just going to reward him for simple victories. Okay? All right, so with that, now we're going to talk about his long lead and his recall. So for the first little bit, when you're out into an area where he has a little bit more freedom, we keep him on a long lead, and we're going to practice this recall. You need to have a way to enforce this recall early on. We don't want to test out whether he's going to come back to you or not. He has a fantastic recall here, but once again, we have a relationship. And so you need to practice and build that relationship. So this is our shortest long lead. Come here, Wally. This is one that we use when we're out in somewhere that has a few more people, like up at the campus and the university. I also use it a lot in here, and it's like a 10 or 12 foot lead. This is what, or a long lead in general, is what most of your walk should be on. This allows him to explore, it allows him to sniff, and he's actually getting to release some energy. A heel is not going to release energy. I mean, how often do we build up a sweat when we're just walking around the block? So it's the same thing for him. If we're going to release energy, which he needs to run. Hey, you're just very, very chewy. He needs to be able to run. So this is a great way to do it and still maintain control. So he's able to run, he's able to check things out, and then I'm going to call him back and have him check in. So let's see if I can distract him enough. So when I call him back, it is his name. So it's Wally, and then come. Man, you are all over the leash right now. Wally. Hey, look. There's your treat. So it's Wally, come. Good boy, good boy. Okay. Once he initiates the action of coming to me, I'll tell him good boy. Once he gets to me, then I'll say okay. You're making this very, very difficult to demonstrate. Wally, come. Good boy, good boy. If he didn't, then I'm going to tell him no, and I'm going to reel him in. So it's no, and I guide him back to me. Once he starts coming, then I'm going to say, good boy, and then okay once he gets to me. So a failed recall, you will use all three of your markers. No. It is no, good, okay. So once again, a failed recall, I would say, no, good boy, okay, just like that. So practice that recall a lot, okay? I practice it way more than I actually need to use it. Like I said, every time we're on a walk, he starts getting the end of that lead, maybe starts to pull a little bit, which I shut down immediately. I call him back, okay? Once he gets to the end, Wally, come. If you don't have a way to enforce it, don't ask him to come in the next couple weeks, especially if you're inside. So here's a good, Wally, come. Good boy, okay. If you're inside, use something informal. All right, we're going to take this off because you're just wanting to chew on it, huh? Yeah. There you go. So yeah, if you're inside and you need his attention, use something informal like, Wally, come here. Snaps, anything like that to get his attention. Okay? Don't use come unless you are going to follow through. Okay? We do not want a bunch of failed recalls, because to me this is your most important command. It's also the easiest to ruin, because as people a lot of times we're lazy. Our dog decides, oh, they don't want to come, and we're inside, we don't have shoes on, so we're like, I'll get you later. And then they learn that they can ignore us. So practice. If you don't have a leash on him and you do call him to come and he decides, maybe not, and he ignores you, immediately tell him no and start to walk towards him. I am going to go and get my dog. He does not get away with ignoring me. So I will go and get him. But if I said no and I started walking towards him and then he started to come towards me, I'm going to stop walking. I'm going to say, good boy. And I might start walking backwards, encouraging him to come to me. And it's good boy. Once he gets to you, okay. And then maybe I'll put on the leash, right? I'm not going to let him continue to test whether he can get away with it. Now, the same thing, if I told him no, and I walked like 90% of the way there, but that last 10% he decided to come to me, reward that behavior. Always reward your dog for coming. Never, never, never punish your dog for coming to you. Even if they were doing something that you did not like, they were digging up the flower bed, so you're out there, but you tell them to come, you better not punish them or reprimand them when they get to you, because then you're just destroying your come command. So now, if I had to walk all the way though, and I got 100%, and he tried to play keep away or something like that, then I am going to repeat myself, say no, put the lead on, and now we're going to practice those come commands. So hopefully that makes sense. I apologize that this might be a little bit choppy. Like I said, my mic died, so had to go back and redo a bunch of it. So we've pushed Wally way past what I would usually do. Make sure that you keep things fun. Short bursts of training are way better than trying to push an hour-long training session. So if you have any questions, please let me know.